Welcome to the 1 Minute Apologist. We interview the world's leading apologists to provide credible answers to curious questions.
Ted, do we have any extra biblical evidence for the Exodus?
Yes, Bobby, we do. And it's actually found in the text itself. Just like the New Testament, obviously if the New Testament writers are eyewitnesses of the resurrection, we look for the same type of evidence in the Old Testament. We want to know, is there any type of clues that the writers in the Old Testament, specifically in the book of Exodus, that they knew about Egyptian culture? And when you begin to dig down into the text and look at some of the things that are written about, it really shows an indication that these are people who eyewitnessed these things that happened in the Exodus. A couple of examples. One example is found in the Egyptian evidence. It's called the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and it is a book of spells that talks about what happens in the afterlife. And one of the things that happen in the afterlife, of course, you know that when pharaohs when they die and they are embalmed, they are actually mummified. And one of the things that happens in the mummy is the mummies are buried with a scarab. A scarab is a beetle, and the beetle actually has a spell from the Egyptian Book of the Dead. When we read in the Exodus account that when the Pharaoh was confronted by Moses and God through the plagues, it says he hardened his heart. We know from the Egyptian evidence that the hardening of the heart is not a good thing, because in the afterlife, the Pharaoh's heart would be weighed in the balance, would be weighed in a scale balance, and if the heart was heavy and if it was hard, it would overweigh the feather of truth, and the Pharaoh would be condemned to wander in the afterlife. And so the scarab was meant, when it was buried in the Pharaoh, it was meant to keep his heart soft, and so the heart would not be condemned. So this is an interesting eyewitness detail that only someone who understood Egyptian culture would have understood. And another indication that the Exodus account is genuine internally in the text is the motif or the concept of the snake. And you see the snake all throughout in Genesis, and you see it all through the Exodus. And we know from Egyptian culture that the snake was a very, very important symbol. In fact, the snake was a god. And then all the plagues of the Exodus, all the 10 plagues, each plague corresponded to an Egyptian god. And the final plague, the plague of the death of the firstborn, corresponded to the divinity of Pharaoh himself. So when you begin to add in this Egyptian understanding of the Exodus, it's a very strongly Egyptian flavoring. Even the name Moses is an Egyptian name. So a lot of internal evidence that the Exodus is definitely a genuine account.